Let's kill this lie right now. The weak-minded narrative? It's a psychological security blanket. You tell yourself that could never be you, because the alternative is terrifying. It could be anyone. Dr. Margaret Singer, the pioneering psychologist who studied coercive control in Korean War POWs and later applied those exact findings to American cults, found zero correlation between intelligence and susceptibility to coercive control. Zero. In fact, cults often prefer educated recruits, engineers, doctors, grad students. Why? Because they're better at rationalizing contradictions. They're highly skilled at building elaborate mental frameworks to justify what their gut already screams is wrong. The research is brutal. A 2016 study from the International Journal of Cultic Studies analyzed over 400 former members across 25 groups. The average IQ? Above the mean. The average age of recruitment? Early 20s. Peak neuroplasticity. Peak idealism. Peak need for belonging. Cults don't want zombies. They want believers. Engaged, intelligent, capable believers who can recruit, manage, and build. The Unification Church? Packed with Ivy Leaguers. Nexium? Hollywood actresses and heirs to billion-dollar fortunes. The Manson family? Included a librarian and a high school homecoming queen. The vulnerability isn't stupidity. The vulnerability is being human. And that means you have the exact same hardware they're designed to exploit. Phase 1 doesn't feel like recruitment. It feels like finally being seen, finally mattering. They call it love bombing, and it's not affection. It's a calculated neurochemical assault. Picture this. You're new, nervous. Maybe you just moved to a city where you know nobody. Maybe your marriage is crumbling. Maybe you're 22 and existential dread is your default setting. You attend one meeting, one retreat, one community dinner, and suddenly euphoria. Strangers hug you like family. They remember your name, your coffee order, that offhand comment you made about loving jazz. They text you good morning. They call just to check in. Within days, you're getting more validation than you've received in years. That here's the neuroscience. Unpredictable, intense positive reinforcement floods the brain with dopamine and oxytocin, the same cocktail that bonds mothers to infants and addicts to substances. Dr. Robert Cialdini, in his research on influence, identified this as the reciprocity principle weaponized at scale. They give you belonging so overwhelming that your brain literally rewires to associate the group with survival itself. But here's the critical detail most people miss. The love isn't unconditional. It's auditing you. They're watching who responds fastest, who shares the most, who needs it most desperately. Those people get promoted to inner circles. The hesitant ones? The love cools. Not rejected, just slightly less warm. And your mammal brain, now addicted, chases that original high by trying harder, believing harder, surrendering more to its not friendship. It's a dopamine leash. And by the time you feel the collar, you're already trained to pull toward them. Phase 2. They don't trap you in a compound. They trap you in a perspective. Isolation in modern cults is rarely physical at first. It's surgical, precision targeted. They don't need to lock doors when they can lock minds. That IT starts with us versus them framing. Subtle at first. Your friends don't really understand your potential. Your family means well, but they're trapped in the matrix of conventional thinking. We're the only ones who see the truth. Then come the loaded language systems, terminology that makes outside communication exhausting. Try explaining to your worried mother why you're clearing your reactive mind, or doing the work, or transcending suppressive persons. She doesn't have the vocabulary. The gap widens. You stop trying. Social media accelerates this beautifully for them. They create private groups, encrypted channels, inside jokes that make the outside world feel increasingly foreign. Your algorithm shifts. Your feed fills with their content. Your old friends' posts start looking naive, even threatening. Dr. Alexander Stein, a former cult member turned researcher, calls this bounded choice, the illusion of freedom inside a closed information system. You're not chained. You're just swimming in a tank where every current flows one direction. And when you do visit family, you're preloaded with defensive scripts. They'll try to stop your growth. They fear your light. So every concerned question validates the cult's narrative. Every argument proves the outside world is against you. The genius? You choose the isolation. You ghost your friends to prove your commitment. You skip Thanksgiving because the energy is toxic. You build the walls yourself, brick by brick, believing you're climbing toward enlightenment, when you're actually digging your own grave. This is where the real horror lives. Because nobody joins a cult thinking they're joining a cult. They join a yoga studio, a business mentorship, a church, a self-improvement seminar. And the destination is reached not by leaps, but by invisible steps. Psychologists call it the foot-in-the-door phenomenon. But in coercive control, it's reality itself that gets renovated one room at a time. Week 1. The leader shares a vulnerable story. You admire the transparency. Week 4. The leader makes a prediction that sort of comes true. You notice the pattern recognition. Week 12. The leader claims a special connection to hidden knowledge. You've seen enough evidence not to dismiss it outright. Take Nexium, for example. Week 1. You're asked to sign a generic non-disclosure agreement. It feels like standard business practice. But by month 6, you're asked to provide collateral, embarrassing photos, or sensitive documents from your past, as a trust exercise to unlock the next level of mentorship. By year 2, that exact same collateral is used to silence you when you question the leader's unethical demands. Month 9, the leader asks you to cut contact with a negative friend. You've already distanced yourself from 2 others. What's one more? Year 2, you're told the end times are coming, or the government is hunting you, or sexual initiation is a sacred ritual. And here's the terrifying part. It doesn't sound crazy. Because your baseline for normal has been drifting for 24 months. The anchor is gone. You're navigating by stars that the cult placed in the sky. Stephen Hassan, cult expert and former Mooney, calls this the bite model. Control of behavior, information, thought, and emotion. But the control isn't enforced. It's normalized. You police yourself. You correct your own doubts before they fully form. The leader never says, believe this or else. The leader says, I used to doubt too. Then I learned to trust the process. And you want to be evolved. You want to be trusted. You want to be part of the inner circle that gets it. So you learn to gaslight yourself. That queasy feeling in your stomach? That's just resistance you need to push through. That memory of the leader contradicting themselves? You're misremembering, or not ready for that level of teaching. The bank account draining? Temporary sacrifice for eternal abundance. Reality isn't taken from you. You're persuaded to surrender it voluntarily, piece by piece, until the cult's reality is the only one you've got left. Let's talk about the architect. Not because they're magical. Because they're mechanical. Charismatic leaders study human psychology the way locksmiths study tumblers. They know exactly which pins to push. First, mirroring. They reflect your values back to you, amplified. You care about the environment? They're building the only truly sustainable community. You crave spiritual depth? They've decoded ancient mysteries. You're ambitious? This is the elite circle that will unlock your potential. Whatever you need, they are, until you need something else. And then they are that, too. Second, strategic vulnerability. They share flaws that aren't flaws. I care too much. I work too hard for this mission. I trust people too easily. It disarms you, makes them approachable, makes their confidence feel earned rather than performed. Third, the manufactured crisis. There is always an enemy, always a deadline. Always a threat that requires total commitment right now. The outside world is collapsing. The opportunity is vanishing. The leader's health is failing, and only your dedication can save the mission. Urgency bypasses rational analysis. It triggers amygdala hijack, fight, flight, or freeze into the leader's arms. Fourth, and this is the darkest, they model the behavior they want from you. They isolate themselves from family. You should too. They work 20-hour days. Laziness is spiritual death. They demand sexual access. It's transgressive healing. You don't question the leader. You aspire to become the leader. And if they fall, if they're caught in abuse or fraud, the system is designed to absorb it. The teachings are perfect. The teacher is human. Or, that was a test of our faith. Or, the outside world framed them. The leader is either infallible or unfairly persecuted. Never simply wrong. Why now? Maybe you're thinking, why don't they just leave? Because leaving isn't walking out a door. It's dismantling your entire identity that you've burned bridges, spent savings, maybe cut off family who won't take you back. Your resume has a years-long gap filled with cult-specific jargon. Your nervous system is wired to the group's rhythms, the calls, the rituals, the constant low-grade adrenaline of crisis and mission. And the sunk cost is crushing. If this is a cult, then I gave my 20s to a lie. Then I betrayed my parents for nothing. Then I let them hurt me, and I thank them for it. That realization isn't just embarrassing. It's annihilating that so many stay because the alternative feels like death. Dr. Janja Lalick, who studied the Heaven's Gate cult, found that members who considered leaving experienced symptoms identical to opioid withdrawal, shaking, vomiting, suicidal ideation. The brain had literally bonded to the group as a survival mechanism. Removing it triggered biological panic. Plus, the cult has prepared for this. They've seeded the narrative. Everyone who leaves becomes depressed, fails, proves we were right about them. And when ex-members do struggle, because of course they do, rebuilding a life from rubble is devastating. The cult points and says, see, they left the light. The trap is perfect. Stay and lose yourself. Leave and lose everything you built. Most people choose the slow death they know over the terrifying unknown that how do you protect yourself? Not by arrogance, by architecture. First, maintain multiple identity anchors. Never let one group, professional, spiritual, social, become your entire ecosystem. Cults can't isolate what isn't centralized. Keep your running club, your bookish college friends, your weird uncle who argues about politics. Diverse social ecosystems are immune systems. Second, watch for the language lock. When a group starts substituting complex insider terminology for normal communication, when you find yourself unable to explain your growth to outsiders, you're in the early stages of bounded choice. Force yourself to translate. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it, and they might not want you to. Third, the best friend test. If you can't imagine bringing your most skeptical, grounded friend to a meeting without them raising eyebrows, ask yourself why. Healthy organizations survive scrutiny. Cults require secrecy. Fourth, track your baseline. Write down your values, your boundaries, your non-negotiables, before anyone asks you to change them. When you're asked to shift one, compare it to the written record. Is this growth or is this drift? And finally, normalize leaving. Make it known in your social circles that you will never judge someone for exiting any group, ever. The lower the social cost of exit, the less power any group has over its members. Cults don't end with dramatic FBI raids and compound fires. Most end quietly, with a person staring at their phone at 3 a.m., wondering when the community that felt like home became a cage they built themselves. The most dangerous cult isn't in a jungle or a desert. It's the one that looks like your dream. The one that offers exactly what you're missing. Exactly when you're missing it most. The psychology isn't exotic. It's ancient. Love, belonging, purpose, meaning. The most human hungers. Exploited by the most inhuman systems that you're not immune. But you're not helpless either. Know the architecture. Guard your exits. And never, ever believe that intelligence alone is enough to keep you free. Because the cults are still recruiting. They're in your DMs. They're hosting the retreat that promises transformation. And now, you know exactly what to look for. Stay skeptical. Stay connected. And stay the hell out of any room where love comes with a price tag. And reality is whatever they say it is.